times have you heard to hit the driver long and far, you need to make a humongous turn, a big turn. You got to turn your body as much as you can so the club can get back as far as possible. We got some problems with that idea. So what I've seen over the thousands of lessons that I've given is when people set up the golf ball, whether they set up right or wrong, their idea of making a big turn turns into this. So they make a backswing, they turn, and to make that turn, they turn their shoulders as much as they can, but in the process, do you notice where I've gone? I started in one position where my head is a few inches behind the golf ball. I make a big, huge shoulder turn, and now I've moved significantly off the golf ball. This is going to create a lot of problems for us. When we do that, we've got a couple options. We're going to turn, and if I make a downswing, I'm going to move my lower body forward, and I'm probably going to tilt my upper body downward. Now I'm going to create a path that's excessively into out. So I'm going to be underplane, swinging really far into out, probably a lot of overdraws, hooks, maybe even some pushes if I leave the face open. That's one of the ways people hit the golf ball when they make that big turn. And the other way is they make a big turn and then they have to move both their upper body and their lower body forward. Most of them can't do that. So when they make that big turn and they move that upper body forward, you notice the lower body starts to move backwards. So now we're going to have a path that goes excessively out to in. So by making that big turn and moving our upper body off the golf ball, we've got a lot of problems. Here's what we're going to do to correct that. When we said we need to make a big turn, I wasn't necessarily wrong. Yeah, you do want to turn, but the key thing that's missing from all of that instruction is the tilt. What is tilt? Like, what do we have to do, and why would we do it with the driver? So most of the time when people set up to a golf ball and they make a backswing and they make that big turn, they're only thinking of turn as like a merry-go-round. Merry-go-round is flat on the ground and it's going in a circle. So if I took this hula hoop here and put it around my shoulders, most people will set up, bent over, and their shoulders want to turn on this angle. But when they make a big shoulder turn, and they say big, and what they're going to do is they're going to flatten that hula hoop out, and they're going to start to get their shoulders to kind of lay flat to the horizon or be parallel to the horizon. And when you do that from this angle, what are you going to notice? Generally, my inclination changes. So instead of being bent over like I was at address, turning and having that same inclination, you're going to notice they're going to make that big turn. They're going to stand more vertically, and now they've got to make all these compensations on the way down. In a perfect world, we're going to keep that hula hoop on a little bit of a tilt, and as we take that club back, our shoulders are going to tilt. The tilt's going to create a little bit of height, so you don't have to lift and raise your arms up in the air. It's also going to help you keep your inclination. This is what it's going to look like when you make a good backswing with a lot of turn and the proper amount of tilt. So again, from this angle, no tilt, big turn. Flat, lost inclination. Let's do it with a little bit of tilt. If you notice, I haven't moved laterally, and you can see it from this side. And my shoulder turn is just as big as it was before, but I'm doing it with really great mechanics. Here's a drill that I would highly recommend for players that are having a hard time understanding how to make a big turn with tilt. So remember, we're not going to just think about turning, we're going to start thinking about tilting. So when I set up, I'm going to get into my driver setup here. I'm going to do it from this angle as well, driver setup. I want you to take your club, put it right across your shoulders for me. And from this angle, you're going to have a lot of the golf club, the grip end, way past your left shoulder. And you're going to start to make some practice backswings. And you're going to start to point the grip end of the club down towards the golf ball. It's probably going to extend past the golf ball, but it's definitely not going to point at your toes, and it's definitely not going to point back at my camera or flat. I need you practicing this as many times as you possibly can to understand how much turn and tilt is required to hit a driver. If you do it correctly, it's going to look something like this. So remember, we're not going to turn anymore to hit our drives. We're going to start to tilt. Tilt will create the turn that you're looking for. That's going to make the backswing big enough, long enough, and far enough to hit those drives really far, really straight.